One of the other interesting notes about last night was when the conversation came to the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and there was a question from the audience from a mother who had a child with autism who wanted to ask about a review that had already been done and her funding had already been cut. Let's have a listen to the response.
You know, I've been blessed. We've got 2 children that haven't had to go through that. And so for parents with children who are disabled, I can only try and understand your aspirations for those children, and I think that is the beauty of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and I pay credit to Julia Gillard.
Yeah, some real questions for a lot of people out there about the language that was used by the Prime Minister, setting aside the actual subject of the question, which was talking about the funding and the cuts to funding for many people when they're having their reviews done. But I want to bring in Liberal Senator Holly Hughes. Senator Hughes, thanks for coming on the program this morning.
Good morning, Lisa.
Tell me, what did you think when you heard those words coming out of your leader's mouth last night?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I did not think of anything of them at all. I know Scott and Jenny have tried, or had tried for 14 years to have their children, and they are blessed with 2 beautiful daughters. I certainly didn't take anything negative away from it, and I really do think that people are missing the point of the substantive issue here if they want to focus on one word. As you and I have discussed previously, I'm the mother of an autistic son. I have 3 children, and I know there were days very early on when my son was younger that were really, really hard. And I can tell you I didn't feel particularly blessed. I've now got a teenage daughter. There's days I don't feel particularly blessed there either. But, you know, to focus on one word is missing the point. I recently chaired the Senate Autism, a Senate Select Committee into autism over the whole of life experience of autistics and their families. There's a 400-page report. There's 81 recommendations. For anyone who wants to get upset about the use of one word, I would suggest that they go and read that report and find some of the substantive issues that are problems. We have a much higher suicide rate within the autism population. We also have a higher unemployment rate than the general disability population. There are issues that we can be angry about, but the use of the word blessed, I think, is just symptomatic of those that just don't like Scott and want to find something to cling to.
OK, well, Senator Hughes, I know you've spoken a lot about your son Fred over the years. In fact, you spoke about him in your maiden speech in 2019, and you've been an advocate for people with a disability. You're now refuting the thoughts of people with disabilities who last night, certainly on social media, were saying, when is the population, when is the community, when are leaders going to stop looking at us as a burden? That's what they took away from it.
Look, it's not looking at us as families or our children as a burden. It's a recognition that we do have additional challenges. My son is a blessing, but I can tell you, as I said, there were days I did not feel particularly blessed. There were very, very challenging days. And for some of these people who are coming out, particularly those in the autistic community who've been diagnosed in their later life as adults, they certainly didn't experience the challenges that we necessarily do as parents in the early days. It is hard, it is difficult, and anyone who has children with a disability or without a disability will say that there are days that are challenging. But if you want to talk about the word blessed is the biggest problem we've got facing us as parents and carers of those people with a disability, this is why the disability community quite often struggles to make constructive gains, is because there is lying underneath it a significant, almost permanent rage machine. And when the NDIS came in and a lot of people got funding for the first time, they had to find somewhere else to direct their rage. There are significant issues with the NDIS. You know, I have my own challenges with the agency, but to just focus on this word, honestly, go read the report, 400 pages, just read the 81 recommendations. Find something of substance and stop focusing on a ridiculous notion that somehow or other the Prime Minister was in any way denigrating people with a disability or their families and the experiences they go through. In fact, Scott understands better than most, if for no other reason, I am constantly in his ear about it.
Sounds like you're doing a bit of damage control
here,
Senator Hughes.
Lisa, we have just recently funded $1.2 million to Autism Awareness Australia for a further project on From Autism What Next, which is a significant thing that the autism community has been working towards, providing real information for families and people with autism about the choices that are available to them in their life and how they can get assistance. So we've actually put some money up for this.
Well, I want to talk just briefly about the actual NDIS and the import of that question last night, because the mother said the funding had been cut by 30% at her first review with no explanation given. Labor says that the NDIS needs a sweeping review, and that's what it will do if it wins government. We had Senator Simon Birmingham on the program this morning saying it's a great scheme and we're happy with how we're running it. It can't be both, can it?
Look, it is a great scheme and it's made a significant difference to my family's life as well as a lot of other families' lives. I can tell you, though, that mother, Catherine, and her son, Ethan, I would hazard a guess that they wanted to go to an early intervention preschool. We do have problems in the agency. There are problems around intensive early intervention, and a lot of this is driven by the autistic adult community who suggest using best practice behavioural interventions is somehow torturing those children. So there are ideological problems within the autistic community, and some of the problems that we're seeing in the early childhood stream in particular are because those within the agency are pushing back about good quality, intensive, early intervention. Now, these are the fundamentals that those children should be accessing. Now, one thing I would say is the early childhood stream does need some review, because I believe that there are some ideological objections to children with autism getting intensive early intervention, because there is a band and a barrage of autistic adults who claim that the kids don't need it.
Senator Hughes, before you go, I do want to ask you about more now deleted tweets that have been uncovered from Liberal candidate Catherine Deves. This one suggesting that a link between cross-dressing men and trans women being sexual predators, even serial killers. Are you concerned by the language that Catherine Deves has used over the years?
Look, Ms Deves has deleted those social media profiles. She has apologised for the language that she used. I do believe some of the language was inappropriate, but we've also got to have some brave discussions when it comes to these issues. And sometimes, you know, we're talking about now the use of a word. Sometimes people say things in the moment that they don't actually mean, or that they're overstating.
She seems to have said a lot.
Using...
There's an awful lot of tweets.
Well, you know, there's an awful lot of tweets from a candidate in the Hunter who used photos of naked women with very big guns, suggesting size didn't matter when you had 130 kilos behind it. So there's some substantial tweets from one of the Labor candidates in the Hunter, yet everyone seems to have gone silent on those. So what's good for one should be good for both. So if everyone wants to cry out about one set of tweets, they should be crying about them all on those both sides of politics.
Does Catherine Deves have your full support, Senator Hughes?
I've never met Miss Deves, so, but yes, she is the candidate for Warringah. And what I would like to see is the seat of Warringah return to the Liberal National Party, not a candidate who wants to fundamentally shut down our economy, who makes ridiculous claims about how climate change needs to be addressed, who also has referred to every single parent who has problems with perhaps a 15-year-old trans teenage woman or girl using their daughter's change room. So that apparently makes us transphobic as parents, having concerns about that. So I think saying goodbye to Zali Steggall in Warringah would be a very good thing, and for that, Ms Deves has my full support.
Holly Hughes, good to have you on the program this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.